Thanks for
having us.
Thanks so much for joining us. Well, Maysoon, let me start with you. Did you really find a husband in Gaza?
I really found a husband in Dheisheh, which isn't Gaza, but it's a refugee camp. So, yeah, I really did.
Wonderful. And so this is now part of your stand-up repertoire?
It is, until I get divorced, which is coming up really, really quickly also, and then I'll switch to that topic.
And Dean, just from what you were saying in the clip that we played, the issue of flying while Arab from the last time we had, in fact, both of you on when you were last in LA, that issue has sadly not become part of your old repertoire. You are still making jokes about it because it's still a sad reality for most Arabs and Muslims.
Well, I don't do as many jokes about that anymore, that topic specifically. Here and there, it has to be more of an incident. I'm talking now more about the body scan, technology at the airport. So it evolves, and as time goes on, as a comedian, you want to evolve. You don't want to be stuck in one place in time. So, I mean, that joke I haven't done in years. It just reminded me of the joke. I'm like, I should do that again.
Okay. Well, but it's still, of course, a big reality.
Well, it is. I mean, I still give advice to people. I tell them, when you go to the airport, dress white, make your flight. Dress brown, never leave town. So you've got to, you have to dress like a white person, like Abercrombie and Fitch type of look, and khaki pants and a polo shirt, and it makes your life a little bit easier at the airport.
You could pass,
except
then the name on your passport shows
my word has Allah, and my last name has Allah in it, so that gives a little.
You also have a friend named Osama, I understand.
I do. We both have an Arab-American friend named Osama, who I would joke that he's completely immune to identity theft in America. Like, he could leave his driver's license and credit card in a crack house, and no one wants to be Osama anything. So he lives a charmed life on one way and a very challenging life on the other.
So tell us about the Arabs Gone Wild comedy tour. How is this different from the previous times you folks have toured?
Well, I mean, I think the biggest difference with Arabs Gone Wild is that, like, for me, this is my dream tour. Like, I'm working with the comics that I like best. We've all worked together for a really long time on a bunch of different tours, and finally have a chance to tour together, which is difficult because we have these crazy schedules. I think the big thing about Arabs Gone Wild is this isn't Arab humor. This is 3 comics who are all professional, who all work in clubs, on TV, doing all sorts of different things, and it's a genuinely funny show. So you don't have to even like Arabs to laugh. In fact, the less you do, the funnier it'll be.
And Dean, tell us also about, there's a third part of your trio, Aron Kader, and I understand the one thing all 3 of you have in common is not just that you have Arab heritage, but that you have Palestinian heritage.
We do, but I think the show is really broadly Arab. It's not specific about being Palestinian whatsoever. And it's not even specific about being Arab anymore. The show, it really is for everyone. I mean, it isn't Arab 101, but if you know nothing about Arabs, you come to the show, you are going to learn something about us. But you're going to learn more about our point of view than just our heritage. I mean, certainly we talk about things about our family and things specific to being Arab that Arab people in the audience really relate to. But we talk about everything, pop culture, politics, Charlie Sheen comes up, and things in the Arab world today are now part of the daily news. It's not like we're just talking about, if we talk about Libya, everyone's talking about Libya. If we talk about revolution in Egypt, everyone's talking about it. Peter King, everyone's talking about it. It's not just us. So the show really is getting, because of what's going on in the news, it's becoming accessible, I think, to everyone, frankly.
And we've seen such a big change and shift in the audience in the past couple of years because we are getting a much, much more diverse audience. So as the audience evolves, we evolve with them.
Right. Now, I'm wondering if all of the amazing revolutions in the Arab world has now made it more hip to be Arab. I mean, does this give you some more street credibility?
I think so. I think it definitely has because people are into the revolutions and cheering for the revolutions. But it's it's good versus evil because if the revolution's making us hip, Peter King's making us evil. So you have to balance out the two. For every, Obama saying something nice, Bachman will say something not so nice. For every time Obama doesn't bomb an Arab country, he bombs a different one. So it's push shove. I don't think it's all,
Yeah, well, and then
roses.
there's President Obama, and then there's Sarah Palin. And I know that, a lot of progressives say, can we just not talk about her anymore? But she's a reality. She's there.
She had to, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
She had a great incident in Palestine, just made me cry laughing because Mrs. Jesus didn't go to where Jesus was born, in Bethlehem. She didn't go to the Church of Nativity because as she was rolling up, she saw the checkpoint and was like, wait a minute, where are we going? And they told her, and she was like, no, it's really not that important.
Sarah Palin is great for comedians, though. She has the most potential since
She's
George Bush.
the new Bush, yeah.
She is, and prettier, but just as bright. I'll put it that way. She's like Lindsay Lohan without the intelligence. That's how I view her. She's really not. I could support her, but not for president, but for manager at Bed Bath & Beyond. I think she'd be amazing in the towel department. That's where you want her to work. I think I could trust her there, like a greeter or something. But it is. There's one good thing, though. I saw yesterday Senator Lindsey Graham, who's a Republican, I probably don't agree with a lot, said about Libya after President Obama's speech, we have to help these people who are rebelling because they share the same values as us as they're striving for democracy and freedom. And I don't think I've heard too many people on either side of the aisle, but definitely the Republican side saying we share the same values as Arabs in the Middle East. And obviously they're Muslim too, so we're sharing the same values. I was really heartened by that. I'm like, that was a great positive thing that the Americans who have seen us more as maybe alien or suspect or not sharing the same values now see this striving for democracy and go, oh my gosh, look at them. They do want democracy. They want freedom. They're not about oppression. And they don't hate us for our freedoms. They want the freedoms that we have. And it might be oversimplistic, but I was really heartened by that moment, by him saying that yesterday.
So it could be the opening of Arabs can now be cool because of the revolutions on the mainstream level, of course. Let me give our listeners information about the shows that the two of you are performing at the Arabs Gone Wild comedy tour. It's the San Diego show. I'm hearing has been sold out already. So sorry to our San Diego listeners.
There's tickets at the door. They're going to hold some tickets at the door, 20 literally, but the rest are sold out.
And that's happening in La Jolla at the Comedy Store, 916 Pearl Street, March 31st. That's this Thursday at 8 p.m. And then in LA on Friday, April 1st at 8 p.m. at the Comedy Store here, 8433 Sunset Boulevard, and there are still tickets available. Again, that's this Friday at 8 p.m. in Los Angeles at the Comedy Store, 8433 Sunset Boulevard. Now, I remember when I came to see the two of you along with the other comics, Arab comics, many years ago here in Los Angeles, the crowd was mostly, I would say majority an Arab crowd. And you were saying, Maysoon, that now the audience has become much more diverse. Why do you think that is?
Because we're just so good that everyone wants to see us. They can't resist. They're drawn in by our Arab coolness. I think definitely the exposure that Dean's gotten on news stations like CNN and our exposure on Al Jazeera, working with, a little bit more mainstream stuff maybe is drawing more people in because we're just a little bit higher profile. I think that a lot of Arabs have American friends and brought them to the last show, and that people who saw us last time are now telling their friends, and that we're building a following in each city. That's, you can't tour for 10 years and have it be all the same group of people. So I think that people tell their friends about the show. I think that Facebook and social networking and Twitter has made us much, much more accessible. So if somebody sees us for 5 minutes on a TV show and they follow us on Twitter and they like what they've seen on TV, then they're going to come out and see the show. So.
And let's talk about the local talent that you also try to promote in each city, because of course now that you guys are so established, successful,
we're tremendously huge.
Big fish in the Jordan River, which has absolutely no water.
How do you help to promote the younger talent or the newer talent?
We basically exploit them as much as possible for everything it's worth. No, in every city we go to, we try to have local talent, but it's been also a staple of the New York Arab American Comedy Festival. We have a new talent show every year, and we have Arab American comics from all over the country come in and showcase in New York. So, here in L.A., we have the most. We've actually added the top Arab American comics from LA. We have 6 others. It's Arab-palooza. We're going to have 9 Arab comics.
Arab-palooza.
It's Arab-palooza. It's 9 Arab comics. And some of them don't even talk about being Arab at all. It's really a range of, some would talk about it, some who don't talk about it at all, just talk about topics that more, generic comics will talk about, but through their own point of view. And also in the Middle East, I'm involved in producing the Amman Stand-Up Comedy Festival the last 3 years in Jordan. And we've always, in the Middle East, we've always taught comedy. It's been a big part of going there. I call myself like a comedy missionary. It's like comedy missionary work. We're teaching comedy.
So stand-up comedy is not just an American thing?
Not the last 3 years, it's really grown in the Middle East, where the young people there are now doing it. It's not just us going anymore. They're doing their own shows. They're producing their own shows. I was just in Saudi Arabia a month and a half ago. I did my second show there.
In Saudi Arabia?
Saudi Arabia, that has the most vibrant stand-up comedy Somali team next to Egypt.
Wow.
Of young people producing their own shows, English and Arabic.
That's
getting
amazing.
on stage. They're being funny. There's limitations on content a little bit.
Sure.
But those limitations are going to end in places like
Very
Egypt.
soon.
Right.
Yeah.
They're evolving. There's going to be more and more freedom to talk about the leaders of the countries you're in, and you can't do that. Although when I was in Lebanon, they said you can make fun of anyone you want, but if you make fun of Hezbollah, you're on your own. They really said that. I'm not kidding. So that was like a little tip.
I just got back from doing shows Valentine's weekend in Palestine because, of course, everyone associates Valentine's with Palestine. But there's no censorship there. They can't keep up with us. When I started doing stand-up in Palestine, it never, ever occurred to me that anyone was going to censor us anywhere. And I didn't get censored until I was doing, like, a big show in Amman, Jordan, and then someone came up to me and they were like, haha, you can't talk about anything. And so I never knew that we weren't supposed to say stuff. So whenever I was there, I always did. So now, because, thank God the Palestinian Authority is so backwards, everyone's, like, loosening the reins and giving more freedom of speech. They're actually trying to take it away right now. So when I went out there February 14th, I made sure to push it as far as I possibly could.
And do you feel, Maysoon, that you get any additional restrictions just being a woman?
No,
it's
absolutely not.
equal
And
opportunity censorship.
That's been really interesting. Yeah, no, that's been interesting because
I
get it because I'm.
They know her. They've seen her.
I get
on
it because
YouTube.
they know who I am. But again, when we started doing stand up, I was part of it from the very beginning in the Middle East. So no one ever was like, "Oh, it's a guy thing." That being said, I haven't gone to Saudi because I'm not going anywhere in the world where being Muslim trumps being American and I can get whipped at any point. Not going, don't care. But I haven't had much luck getting booked in the in Dubai and the Emirates and stuff. I've had much more luck in Beirut.
Well, you were talking both of you earlier about how comedy, your comedy, it doesn't necessarily have to do with you being Arab, but often stand-up comics, comedians, particularly those from minorities, that it becomes a central part, or their identity becomes a central part of their show, just because it's a natural thing, and it always can put audiences in a tough spot, especially if you're from outside the minority group, because you laugh at the jokes, but you know that you maybe shouldn't be laughing at jokes that do make fun of that group itself. Do you sense nervous laughter from the non-Arab crowds when you do your shows?
Not at our show, because they see other brown people laughing at the jokes. If it was an all, say, white audience, and you're doing jokes about brown people, they might not know. But the old adage that they look at the brown people, or the Arabs are laughing, so I can laugh now, or the black people are laughing at the black jokes, I can laugh now. They come to our shows knowing it's a celebration. We're here to have a good time. We're not demonizing. I think the most challenging thing sometimes we do challenge sometimes white America's perception of who we are, and they can be uncomfortable slightly for that moment, but they know we're not mocking them. But we tell them. Sometimes when you share our experiences, I talk about, I look like a white guy, but I view the world as a minority. I watch a news story, and if it's a terrible crime committed and they don't know the identity of the suspect, if you're white, I hope they catch him. If you're a minority, I hope he's not one of us. And that's and that's the world we live in. Yeah. And I go further with that, and sometimes white people you can see a slight bit of uncomfortableness. We're not trying to be divisive. We're just sharing our own perspective and our own experience and what it's like to be in our shoes, which is, regardless of my skin color, we're a minority. If a few of you do something wrong and the rest of your group suffers a backlash, you're a minority in America. Certainly Arabs and Muslims fit that bill.
And we're coming upon the 10th anniversary of the September 11th attacks later this year. And certainly the United States hasn't gotten to be a kinder place for people from Arab and Muslim backgrounds, particularly with the with the Tea Party and with the Republicans fighting against a man, our president, whose middle name is Hussein. It's almost as though it's taken 10 years for the bigotry to kind of ripen and mature, and now we're at a place where it is really scary, despite the uprisings in the Arab world that do add the cool factor. Do you folks who have the high profile because you're talking about being Arab, do you have any fears? Does it, are you ever in a situation where you hope that you don't get targeted by some of these crazy people bring guns to rallies?
Absolutely. Listen, after Deb Pauley pulled what she pulled in Yorba Linda,
Right.
basically
Which we covered on our show.
completely and utterly saying Muslims are not from America. They can't be part of the fabric. I sit online because I'm a crazy person who's bored and goes on YouTube and answers crazy people in a vacuum. And I have people just spending hours trying to prove I'm not American. They're like, you're not American. I'm like, I'm born in New Jersey. They're like, your parents are not American. I'm like, they're both American citizens. So was my grandfather. And like, they can't wrap their brains around it. And these are the same people who eventually send me the scary message on Twitter. And they're the same people who I know are armed to the teeth.
Right.
And I feel like, you know, I grew up in New Jersey, and I always kid about how, like, I used to go to midnight mass with my Catholic friends, and they'd be like, she's from where Jesus is. And I was always included, and I was never an other. And when I hear what's being said by actual politicians like Lazio, like Deb Pauley, I'm like, when did it become okay to, completely and utterly target people? And I do find it scary, and I do think it's unsafe. And I've had people accusing me of doing something called taqiyya, and I'm like, I don't know what the heck that means, but basically it's when a Muslim pretends to be good just so he can get close to you and kill you. And I'm like, if you're explaining it to me, then I obviously don't know what that is. And it's the same thing with, like, you have the fear from that side of the world, and then you have the whole other side of it where the news cycle affects us when we're doing comedy.
And I should mention Deb Pauley called on Marines to take out all Muslims because they were, quote, terrorists. So just to clarify exactly what it was she said, we played that clip on our show and we covered the Yorba Linda hate rally. Well, not to end on an ominous note, but Maysoon Zayid and Dean Obeidallah, I wish the two of you the best of luck. The Arabs Gone Wild comedy tour is happening in San Diego and LA, March 31st and April 1st at 8 p.m. both dates at the Comedy Store in each city. Is there a website for more information?
Yep, ArabsGoneWild.com.
ArabsGoneWild.com, and we'll link to that from our website, uprisingradio.org, later today. Maysoon and Dean, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Well,